Oi, Bonita. Welcome to the Be Bonita podcast. My name is Viviane. I am your host, and guess who's here with us today? Miss Candace.
Hi, everyone.
She's going to be talking about her baby, Touchy Feely. So I don't want to make an introduction based on what I don't know about this woman. So I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, and that's how we're going to play. So introduce yourself to us.
I feel like I should start with Hola, Bonita.
Hola, Bonita.
I love that so much. It makes me smile every time you say it to me.
And that is my intention, because you don't hear people, greeting someone like that. So every time I say this to my clients, they're like, oh, you made my day. Oi,
Yes.
Bonita.
Yeah, and can I also say, because we live in a country where we keep our culture so close to us, it's nice and it feels so warm to be invited into your culture, right? Because my culture is like a hi or a hello or whatever it is, right? But like, hola, bonita is not how I'm starting my day. So to receive it feels warm.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
I will keep saying that.
Yes, I love it so much. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm Candace Johnson, the creator of Touchy Feely Intimacy card game. It's the world's first talk and touch game that provides universal play. So I'm super excited to talk to you about it. You and I are so well synergized, because what is an esthetician if not someone who's providing the perfect amount of conversation and touch?
Perfect. I didn't think that way, but now it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, I mean, the way we spoke during my facial, and then the way I just felt so cared for after, it felt like a date. It felt like an incredibly romantic experience. And I felt romantically full when I left.
Oh, wow.
It's true.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So tell us who you are, Mama, because I feel like, I have purchased her a beautiful product without getting to know the woman, but I fell in love with the brand first, the visual piece. And then when I purchased it, I was like, wait a minute, the questions were so deep and nutritious in a way, because it really allowed not only myself, but I was playing the game with my husband, and the questions that he was asking me, I was like, wait a minute, you need to memorize those questions for you to get to know me more, because you don't ask me enough questions. And I think that a great conversation start with great questions.
Yeah.
So I really want the ladies to know who you are and what inspires you to create this brand.
I would love to share. So number one, I'm a person who loves people. And, I was conceived out of love. My parents were very in love with each other when they decided to have me. And my family was filled with love. I only ever knew love. And I didn't know that fully until last week at my family reunion. And, there were hundreds of us there. And me and one of my cousins looked around and we said, we had no idea how blessed we were. We were so loved, we didn't know we were poor.
Yeah.
That's how much love. And so as a result of that love and having a grounding of religion and God, it's always just been my quest to love on people by way of understanding them, as opposed to loving people by way of changing them, which is what I feel like a lot of possession would happen, like a more possessive love. And so that is just the core of who I am as a person. And then professional background, I love the camera. So when I was 16, I went to Creative and Performing Arts High School, or 14, right? 14 is when high school starts. By 16, I was at NYU in the film department. I wanted to be a film director. And a little over 10 years ago, I spent the last decade at 21st Century Fox as a television news producer. And that brought me probably my greatest acclaim, because in such a small time, in 10 years, I've interviewed everyone. Highest of the highs, right? Lowest of the lows. Always on the front lines. I have a mic in someone's face when they won a gold medal. And I had a mic in someone's face while their house was burning down behind them. And we're like, how do you feel? It's the first thing you ask people. How do you feel? And then, on the back end, when the show was not running, I had a press pass and I like to party with the people. So we're interviewing each other professionally, and then we're dating off camera. All of it is questions. And what I got is we all want the same thing, and we all think that we're different. Those two things, they don't really work. How can we all be different and all want the same things? And so I wanted to create a game that showed how unspecial we all are.
Wow. Well, let's explore that.
Yeah.
What do you mean by saying unspecial?
Well, I think that it's fair play these days where people will say, like, oh, you don't know me. Or, they don't know me. Everyone has a hater. But, and I'm sure you might know this, the opposite of love is indifference. It's to not care about you at all. So even a hater is a form of a lover. It's just negative energy. Whereas someone who doesn't even know you exist, that is the person who genuinely doesn't care for you because they can't. You don't exist. The things I don't care about, I don't think about. But the things that I care about, I do think about, even if it's negative. And so with the game, what I wanted to do was, for a person who says, oh, I can't date because there's no one like me, or I can't find the person who does blah, blah, blah. I always challenge them to go into the box, find questions that you think identify who you are. And if that person were to ask you this question, they get a better idea of who you are, because you would be able to then present them with something. Sometimes we're not in an opportunity where people are really trying to get to know who we are. They're just trying to get to know how they can have us. Does that make sense? Like when I want to date, sometimes I feel like a guy will be interviewing me for a wife position. Which is different from interviewing me to see who Candace is. To see if maybe Candace could be a wife to you. But if you bypass the Candace to just get to the wife, you might be able to find her. I think I could fill in a lot of wifely duties, but it doesn't necessarily need to be Candace, and that's the issue. And so with the game, I find that you can always find a smile, you can always find relatability, and you can always find how you and I are more alike than different. And so I love having people walk away from the game knowing that we are only as misunderstood as we allow ourselves to be. Because communication is fluid and you're always welcome to do it.
What I realized reading one of the questions, or actually my husband was asking the question, is how much I didn't know how deep I had to get to answer that question. Deep meaning like, oh shoot, nobody ever asked me that question. Therefore, I don't know how to articulate the answer. I need to discover myself and explore this question myself to be able to know how to respond.
Yeah.
So it was like a singular therapy as we are exchanging, having that conversation. So I'm in love with this girl because it's this card game is much more than that. It's super therapeutic. I feel like it's a therapeutic tool to every woman, men too, but every woman that haven't had the opportunity yet to really go deeper in her own sense of self.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was like, we need to have this conversation. We need to share with the world. And hopefully, Bonita, you share with the world, because this is a conversation we need to have, especially for women of color who put aside that idea of beauty, that idea of sensuality and sexuality because of the society just looking at us as a piece of good meat, but not really understand the power that we have within ourselves. We don't know. Some of us do know. It became to know because of the work that we do. And I feel like the card game, it's a great start to explore that. I noticed that within the card, there are 4 levels, right? 4 levels of language. Explain to us what that means.
I wanted to make sure the game was universal play,
Yeah.
meaning that you can play with literally anyone. But then how do you break that up? So what we decided, or what I decided, was 4 levels, right? Everything that you need should be in 4 levels. Level 1 is the beginning, right? It's strangers, get to know you, a first date, a first meeting. Children, right? Children at the beginning of their lives, and at the beginning of the relationship if you're meeting them. And it's amazing what children know about love, because especially if a child is blessed, that's all they know. You know, even the punishments are based off of love, which, you know, punishments are love lessons. And so level 2 is the next step in that relationship. People you're forced to share space with, so you have to find grace for them. Coworkers, in-laws, exes, co-parenters, people where there either has to be that love, or there has to be grace because we're here and we don't want anything but peace. And I think what's great about that level 2 is it allows for you to find respect for people you don't like, and that's okay. You should really not like a decent portion of the people in your life. That's how you know you have a well-rounded life, but with all due respect. Level 3 is the closest people to you where the trust hasn't been tested. So new best friend, new girlfriend, new boyfriend. Oh, I love you so much. But that weight hasn't been tested yet with longevity. And then level 4, partners, husband, wives, childhood best friends, the witnesses to your life, people whom you love, and the trust has been tested, and you know that there's longevity in the relationship. And really you can't lie to them because they can call it out.
I love it.
Yes.
You sound like a psychologist.
Oh. I just be dating the people and talking to them.
You're a great observant. That's what it is.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about what I've learned, and I'm bored by how unloved people are. And what I mean by that is, when you mentioned the word beauty earlier, I was looking at you, and when I see you, I look at beauty who knows pleasure. And how unfortunate is it to be a beautiful woman who can't identify with your pleasure for whatever the reason is, because someone's told you you can, or because you just have not gotten to that on your own. But nevertheless, like, I think the saddest story ever told is, you know, a cow who produces the greatest steaks the world's ever known, but the cow can't enjoy that pleasure.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy?
What?
So is the cow lucky, or is it deeply cursed and unlucky to be the pleasure for all of us, but it itself can't enjoy the thing that it gives fruitfully? And I think of that as women, beautiful women who should be like laid out on lily pads, just worshipped, right? Are in turn brutalized, demonized, and people even do it to me. They try to put fear into me, like, oh, well, be careful, because the way you say it, it sounds like you're hurting for it. I am hurting for what I want. And I expect you all to hurt whoever tries to hurt me. You know, and so it's that kind of thinking, but beauty should be synonymous with pleasure. And I
agree. I agree 100%.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense when you say it that way. So I would like for you to, you kind of went over the 4 levels, but I would like for you to pick one card of different levels, and you can ask me so they can understand a little bit about the game, and we're gonna actually explore even further, but we are creating a part 2. So you can understand how cool this game is. All right, so she is going to pick level 1 now.
Okay. I'm gonna pick a level 1 question. And I like to pick a random question.
Okay.
Because I just feel like it always works. Okay. Oh, okay. This is a level 1 question. List how many happy relationships you know and what makes them seemingly desirable.
Can you read that again?
Yes.
See how deep the questions are?
Yes. List how many happy relationships you know and what makes them seemingly desirable.
I have a very special relationship with my son. We can talk about anything. And I miss talking to him on that level where he is sharing his vision for his future, or even like his vision that he has for me as his mother, and also someone that inspires him to do and be better. So that is one significant relationship. Then my husband, for sure. Again, learning a lot about love through his eyes, right? The way he treats me and the way he reflects that back at me when I'm losing my shit. And I think the relationship that I'm building with myself, to really looking at myself as a work in progress, not just I know it all and I have arrived to the destination, but learning how to love myself and have that relationship with myself as I have the same love and respect for you, right? So that is something that it's different than, yes, I love myself. Yes, I don't think about myself as myself being less. No, I am the shit. But deep inside, I don't know that. I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
I don't believe in myself. So, or I am just believing at that moment, but the times that I need to believe in myself, that foundation is not there because Viviane is not nurturing Viviane, right? So as I've gotten married, became a mom, and have built this business, then I'm learning to really look at myself like, shit, you're the shit, Viv.
You are.
And loving on myself. So I'm learning that now for the past 10 years now. And even more now, having the love of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's so beautiful. Well, as you know, typically what happens right after is I rate your answer on a scale of 1 to 5 based on openness and vulnerability. I obviously give you a 5.
Okay.
Which is a cheap way because, you are such an open person. So, of course, that's such an easy 5 for you. But let me tell you what I thought was so amazing. Most people, when they hear the question, or at least most people I've played the game with, when they hear that question, they start counting other people's relationships. Oh, I know this many happy married people, or, oh, I know this many people in a solid relationships. So the fact that you heard the question as how many happy relationships you know, meaning the ones that you're involved in, your husband, yourself, and your child, that's such a beautiful way to also see the question, which again is what I love.
Which angle?
Yes, yes, because the happiest relationships should be the ones that you are included in. But I don't think people see it that way.
They don't see it that way.
Yes.
I think that we all relate relationships as being like love relationship. And
Yes.
That's it. And
Yes.
it's not.
Yes.
It's not. And that's exactly why I love your cards, because you are very intentional with words.
Yes.
Not just the questions.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to play with, because some people say, and people say this a lot, like, oh, the questions are too subjective. I said, well, number one, your life is subjective. Everything that you know about who you are is based on the experiences you've had. I've never been a trillionaire, but I imagine that I would learn a lot more about myself if I had that much access, right? But the way you hear things also goes to show you how you communicate.
Yes.
Right? Because I'm a pop-off queen too, especially in my relationships. I have moments where I like to be a brat. And so it's important to me to be with a man who understands soothing versus punishing me, because if you soothe me, I calm pretty quickly. If you try to punish me, well, now we are exaggerating an already large and dramatic situation. Like, it's going to combust. It's not going to be great. So even just like knowing that little part about me, and also the understanding of me is how much power I hold. And so where I think I'm being like a brat, someone else could think I'm being a bully.
Wow.
Because it's just about the power.
Yeah.
A newborn baby is never called a bully because they're not big enough, even though they're very powerful, those babies. And then, all of a sudden in high school, just because you're 2 inches taller than someone else, now you're a bully because someone's afraid of you. So I've learned that with myself. I'm so powerful. I have to make sure that if I'm acting out towards someone who isn't scared of me or my power, so that I also don't put myself in a situation where I'm a bully. So these are the types of things, but it all comes back to the game. The way someone hears the question is all of how they're going to communicate back. And the way they communicate back is going to be the emotional energy that we share.
So then so with my answer, someone that is asking the questions, they are, how do you call
The emotional equation card I'm looking for right now, which is, so that is the special sauce, really.
Okay.
The emotional equation card, here it is here, is the card that turns the talk to the touch. So as you remember, I rated your answer a 5, list the happiest relationships you know and what makes them seemingly desirable. I really loved your answer. So that emotional rating converts to a touch. 5 is improvise, meaning your answer was so acute and so on point, so concise. I trust you to touch however you'd like. Because verbally, your answer was so giving. I don't have a reason to give you any limitations on how we do the next part.
And why did you, so you have the verbal component of communication, and then you have the touch as a way to connect, right? And this way, if you're listening on, Apple or Spotify, you can't see the card, but if you're on YouTube, you can see it. This game is much more than just a question, just asking questions, but really processing the question, expressing physically.
Yes.
In a very non-sexual way. If you're partners, hey, go at it. But if you are having, playing these cards with a group of friends, you can get to know your sensorial response to whatever you pick from that grade. So what made you to connect these two ways of communication in this card game?
Well, I feel like we live in a culture where talk and touch they should always be together.
Hey, and Brazilians, we touch and talk all the time.
It's true. But honestly, all human beings do. It is innate when you see someone that you haven't seen in a while to embrace them.
Yeah.
It's also customary to be so angry with someone that you want to physically hurt them. That's still an action, still a communication. And to be in our society where we can talk to each other but don't touch, or the opposite, right? We touch each other, but then the next morning don't talk about it. Don't don't sensationalize it. Don't feel good about it. And in fact, maybe in some cases, feel in shame about it. Do a walk of shame. Wonder if you're going to be respected the next day. Like it's too much. And so what I wanted to create, because I'm a greedy person, I like to be talked to and I want to be touched, is an opportunity where if someone says something really good to me, then they can give me the ultimate follow-up, which is an embrace. If I verbally made you feel so warm, let me follow that up with an actual physical warmth. And you're right, it doesn't have to be sexual. I think in some cases we know no touch and then we know sexual touch. Or, boundary touch, like say, don't touch me at all. But there's welcome touch. There's your safe touch. I love to give this whole stay over there touch. You just tap somebody on the shoulder.
I have a friend, she's like that. How you doing?
Yes.
And I'm like, why are you afraid of me? She's like, you know I don't like to hug.
And that is all of the communication right there, because I am a touchy person, very, very, very touchy. But what I respect and love are the people who are not as touchy, who can play in the game and then show how they can participate while still maintaining their own boundaries. And one of my favorites, and I know we're about to do the touch part, but in level 1, I know we'll go over the body parts, which are the forehead, the cheek, the hands, the feet. Very, very, very welcoming areas in the sense that we typically expose these parts of ourselves. They're pretty public areas. But innocent enough that at the very, very least, if you were to improvise on someone's hand, that's a handshake.
Yes.
And if you really don't like touch, because it's a new day and people are worried about germs, and I get that, I had the most beautiful person say to me, in the service industry, we don't want to touch too many people because we're dealing with food. He says, so when I play the game, he goes, he puts his hands together and then he bows.
Wow.
And so he's not physically touching, but he's still offering the art of touch.
And receiving.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
I love it.
To not touch at all is also an art form in a communication. And I just thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, like I never thought that way, but yes, that's why the monk is saying namaste, like with the eyes engaging that way. So
Yes.
yeah, it makes sense.
And also a bow is such a gorgeous and humble and respectful way to greet someone or to leave someone. Because I can give you a good old Christian bow. Okay, well,
Goodbye.
you know, God bless. I'm gonna go over there.
Go with God.
Yes, go with God. Or I'm gonna go find God, because Sarah Jake Roberts, who's one of my most favorite pastors, she said, and she helped me years ago when she said this: if you don't know where God is, then pay attention to where God is not. And if when you're in a room, you don't feel the love and you don't feel safe, you don't feel protected, leave.
Leave.
So you need a little bow, or I'm gonna go over there, because I don't think God is here for me.
Yeah.
For me, you know.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it helps me stay calm.
So can you show the card?
Absolutely.
How it looks like.
Yeah, so this is that first card. So this sort of like shows you the language up top. And then at the bottom are the body parts. And the reason why it was important that we made the body parts a little smaller in font, because I've had people ask, like, why is it so small? Well, two, one, you can write out ignore it if you like. For some people, the verbal language is the most important part of it. For me, it's both. I also think that if you're not clear with who you're playing with, there's an opportunity to do both parts, but then there's an opportunity to change the game to whatever the relationship is. I had a group of girls DM me because they were doing a bachelorette party, and they said, oh, you know, we bought the game and we want to play, but if we don't want to make it a touch game, can we make it a drinking game? I said, well, I'm not there. You can do whatever you like. But
It's your cards.
They sent me this video where they did talk, touch, or taste. Meaning when they got to the touch part, some of the girls, you know, were drinking, they had a good time, so they just wanted to do the touch. Because, you know, girlfriends are girlfriends. But they did have some women there who just were not into that. And so they did a thing where you could do the touch or you could do a shot. I thought that was fun.
I love it.
So it turned into a party game. So I think that there are just so many different ways that you can change. And the fact is that, and you said it so well earlier, I use the game as a dating weapon, you know?
Weapon.
I like to disarm my date. I want it to be romantic. I want the questions to be fruitful and thoughtful. And I don't want it to feel like an interview, which sometimes it does. And so that's what I use the game for. But it also is very much built to be a therapeutic tool. And so for those of us who are recovering from violation, for people who are trying to set new boundaries for themselves that are a lot less limiting, for people who want to have an experience where they won't be blamed for exploration, this is a really great game for that. Because consent is all through it, and everything is appropriately laid out. And I think that is what is most important, is that you feel safe coming into this game. And there's no genitalia throughout any of the levels. So you always know you're putting your best foot forward. The other person is too. And then obviously you can always go back a level if you feel like this is too much.
Too much. And we're going to go into the level 4, part 2, for you to see. It's not racy, but it's pretty cool. And again, like it builds up. I feel like it builds it helps to build your confidence in being vulnerable, and kind of sharing a part of yourself that now everybody knows. So with that, also there is that disconnect with the body as well. Am I going to respond to this? How am I going to respond to this question? And then now, if she chooses 1 to 5, I don't like to be touched. So there is a lot of what is the disconnect in that way. So I like the way you explaining the alternative ways that you can play the game. So the level 1 was amazing, and I feel like let's go to level 2.
Yes.
And I want you to break down the level, what it means, and also touch on the touchy part that I want us to explore a little bit more.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so that was the level 1. And again, the level 1 question, to remind that, you know, children can play, that list how many happy relationships you know and what seemingly makes them desirable. To have a child answer that is so beautiful. I had one woman tell me that her 9-year-old got that question. And what she received was her and her husband were a little disconnected. She's been honest. She owns a company. And she has a 9-year-old kid. and she doesn't always feel like a woman. She feels like a lot of other things, and she loves her life. Gorgeous woman, but she doesn't always feel sexually connected to her husband. But she said listening to her son share what he knows about love based off what he's seen his parents do.
Wow.
Her and her husband ended up making love that night because she was able to see what her... Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
And she said it to me, and she was a little ashamed. She was like, a little freaked out that my 9-year-old's the reason why we got it on. I said, but that's what it should be. You should be so inspired by what your love shines out to other people that it radiates back to you.
Yeah.
When someone says, oh my God, Vivi, like your skin is so gorgeous. I just love it so much, right? This isn't a compliment. These are facts. You've worked on yourself. But it's that joy bouncing out so strongly that I have to tell you I see it. And like I radiate from it because you radiate from it. And I just think that is one of the most beautiful things. But then a level 2, which can be a bit more of a challenge. I know someone, but maybe I like them, maybe I don't. But at the end of the day, we're stuck together. Almost like being on an elevator. We're stuck here.
There's no way for me to run out.
Right.
Yeah.
So my ex-boyfriend says inmates can play level 2.
Oh.
You're in an 8x10, you're stuck together. You got to make it work.
Okay.
Okay, so perfect level 2 question for inmates, in-laws, exes, co-parenters, co-workers, people who are forced to share space. How can I more positively impact the way you feel about me?
Repeat that question, please.
How can I more positively impact the way you feel about me?
Tell me that I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
Just playing. No.
Every day I can do that. That's easy.
Right. I think that randomly texting me and say, I wish that you have a great day.
I love that.
Just a text. And simple things, like, right? Because we're so caught up in our mind on the future and the past that we forget about being present. And so when you get a gesture, a kind gesture, it allows us to be in the present moment. So I think that is a way, and hopefully I answer it.
Yeah.
Okay. Your question.
Yeah, you did. Well, number 1, what I think is great. Well, I give you a 4.
Okay.
I'll give you a 4. 1, you gave me a directive. So you gave me something I actually can use, and I will. Because I do want to more positively, I want you to feel more positive around me, and I want you to think more positively of me, and any little thing I can do, I would love to do that. And a text is such a small thing. But a great way to remind each other that we're thinking of each other. So I'm happy to do that. The reason why I gave you a 4 instead of 5 is 1, I didn't want to give you too many 5s, I'll be honest. And then moreover, I wanted to push the point that a 5 is for when there isn't a follow-up question. When someone's given so much of themselves that you're like, okay, not only did you think about it, but you gave me a whole bunch, and I'm still chewing on it, and I couldn't imagine what else I would be asking you. Full, complete thought. That's a 5.
Okay.
Right? I'll say 4 because you gave me a full, complete thought. But I do have some follow-up questions. And this is why I think it's so great when single people and married people have conversation. I think it's so necessary. Because one of the things I struggle with my married friends is my married female friends are the ones I check on the least. Because in my mind, especially if you're in a healthy marriage and I know that you're in a healthy marriage, I'm like, your husband got you. Girl, you can roll over and have pillow talk. Whereas I'm probably checking in more on my single girlfriends, the ones who are in turbulent relationships, or ones who are in immediate situations. But to know that you are in love, you're with the love of your life, you're married, you have these very fruitful type relationships, but you still would love to hear from me. It makes me feel important. And I love that. So that's what I appreciate.
And again, this is our, these questions are very intimate, and that no sexual flavor attached to this term.
Yeah.
I feel like when you have relationships or friendships that really respect you, based on who you are and what you exchange with them, it doesn't matter if you're in a solid, loving relationship or an empty, solid relationship. the woman, the person still need to be connected with herself or himself. And so a good friend texting, saying hello, catching up, sending flowers, stopping by means a lot to them.
Yeah.
So you never know, because your idea, people's idea or assumptions of, she's happy, she's married.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, she's miserable because she's single. You don't know.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very important to having these conversations. And again, going back to the cards, like, it's a great tool to open that door, that box, to be like, you know what, girl, I'm so glad that you asked that question, because it really led me to just happen last month.
Yeah.
And then it opens up to a different level of conversation. So, and I love the fact that you explained the levels in that way, where the 5, there is no need for a follow-up, but the 4 allows you to have a follow-up question.
Absolutely.
Now I know I'm going to tell my husband that.
Yes. And what's also great about a 4 or 3 or 2 or 1 is that is where the opportunity to give more is, right? A 5 is pretty set. It means, okay, everything I said was great. Everything, you took it well, and we're on to the next part, which is the touch, and that's great, right? Just like a great business deal. Once we're done with all the talking, we sign. That's an action. Or we handshake. That's an action. It's letting us know the deal is done. But getting a 1, getting a 2, getting a 3, or getting a 4 means, all right, the contract's written out, but if you want to make an amendment, right, then you can go back in, share more, and then go ahead and try to get that 5. Because, for instance, a 4 is caress, or I'm sorry, is kiss.
Kiss.
Right?
Okay.
You and I are girlfriends. Well, I definitely will kiss you. I absolutely will. I have just the teeniest little bit of shine on you. No, I absolutely will. But let's say it's 2 coworkers who definitely don't want to, or we actually are in the workplace where that would be inappropriate. Well, a couple of things. One, we can think of a creative way to show the kiss, or we can go in and you can say, you know what, let me answer a little bit more, because I'd rather be in power of how I touch you. I'd rather be in control of that.
So the person who asked the question is the person who also chooses the touch?
The person who answers is the person who facilitates the touch.
Oh, okay.
But also what I found, and actually it was a husband that told me this,
Okay.
He prefers it when he answers the question to have his wife touch him. He prefers it to be a reward. So if he answers so well that his wife gives him a 5, then he wants his wife to touch him, because it almost feels like, all right, great. Well, if I did it so well, then you touch me.
You reward me.
So I do say it plays like Uno like that, where once you understand the rules and you understand who you're playing with, it does change. For instance, when I play, I'll do level 1 questions on a first date, because it's a first date, but I'll do level 4 body parts. Because I'm grown.
Because she's grown.
Right? Because it's about how much do I want to know about someone. Elementary on the first date. I don't need to know that much. But I do want the heightened sensuality. So I make the body parts a lot more deviant, and I make the questions a lot more innocent and light. But then there's also the opposite. People who want the heavier question, level 4 question, but they either want the body parts eliminated, or they want the level 1 body parts because the sexual component isn't there, or the intimate, the pleasure component isn't there, or still being explored, or maybe somebody's on punishment, so they just aren't allowed to benefit in that way. So I think it's really just about when you fully understand where you are with the person or people you're playing with, then you can decide a lot, even how we choose the body parts.
Yep.
Yeah. Because if you're playing with your husband, maybe you'll say, oh, you can touch whatever body part you want. Maybe if you're playing with someone you don't have that trust with, and it's like, all right, well, you can tell me what body part you want. We can talk about it.
So just based on what you're just sharing here, like now I have even a better understanding about the flow of the game playing. You made this beautiful experience of feeling and touching, and this exchange of sensorial exchange to really get to know, not only yourself, but the other person that you engage, or the group of people that you're engaging with. And you also with that, you got a lot of people to really rethink about, oh, why am I resisting to even allow to be touched?
Yeah.
Why am I resisting to even go really deep here to give a better answer? So super therapeutic, and it's so awesome. And I don't feel like it's enough time to go deeper, but I really want you to go back to the levels of which one I would pick. The 4, yes, and then you kiss me, or I kiss you. Kiss me.
I kiss
yeah,
you.
she kissed me.
Yeah.
And then from that, just base you show the 4, right? And then what is the meaning of the 2 hearts here in this card?
It just reminds you of the level. So I wanted to make sure that it's very clear in all ways which card that you have. So on the front, it's identifiable by the level 2 up top, the 2 hearts, and then also the body parts. I know I kissed you on your cheek, but the body parts technically for level 2 are the chin, the calves, the neck, and the shoulders.
This is level 2, y'all. This is level 2. Imagine level 4. No, it's not that bad.
But I also wouldn't mind, and I actually think it's so sweet. I do this with my nieces all the time. Giving a little kiss on the shoulder. I actually find it to be incredibly supportive, depending on the person, because that also could be hyper sensual, depending on what it is. I have a ton of kids in my life, and so even with my 10-year-old, I had to nibble her inner thigh. We were playing Touchy Feely. It didn't even strike me as being romantic sexually in any way. But it was one of the most delicious experiences of my life. I don't know, like if you have a kid that you love, I don't know how you don't eat them up.
I know.
Yeah.
Bite their cheeks off.
Yes. Yeah. But also the conversation I had with Ken when I was done eating her was I said to her, I said, I'm happy that you like this. Because she laughed and she giggled, so I knew it was okay. But I said to her, I said, your body's changing. And some things that are fun when we're younger don't feel as comfortable after our bodies change. So if ever you feel like my nibbling on you doesn't feel as fun anymore, you're going to have to be grown up enough to say to me, hey, auntie, now, it's a new day now. I said, and also, because I love you so much, I might be offended and tell I want to eat you anyway, but you're going to have to be a big girl and explain to me your feelings and that it's different. And the reason why I do that with her is because I was blessed enough to have a dad in my home. I had 2 dads. And I remember being really embarrassed to have to tell my biological dad, I don't want you storming in my bedroom anymore. I didn't understand the feeling of why I didn't want my dad in my room anymore. I just knew that I didn't want him seeing me naked anymore. And of course, when I told him, I built that body. What that body? You peed on me? Pooped on me? He was in, my dad was like, I always talk about my dad like he's George Jefferson. He talks like that. But his name was George, which is funny. But I do remember how I had to go to my mom, figure out how to express to her, I don't want this anymore. And then we had to have a full family meeting, me and my brothers and my dad and my mom, because my body was changing. Also, my brother was 2 years younger. His body was changing. So what does the household need to look like when now you have 2 children in puberty? And to save my niece the hideousness of having to, realize her body's changing, and now I have to get the family on board with her body's changing, I just wanted to throw it out there. Listen, I will eat you until you tell me no. But I want you to always be responsible for who is touching your body. And that includes your auntie, your daddy, your mommy, everybody. Everybody. Yeah. And so that was the beauty of the experience. So for me, a kiss on the shoulder is nothing because I always know what the intention is. But also my opportunity is to then say, okay, I know my intention, but can you receive that? Or would this be pushing you to a place that would actually make you uncomfortable?
So then when the person is expressing or doing the touching, how do you know when the person that responds the question is open to, if there is a way to ask for permission to express these expressions of touch?
Well, I think we actually demonstrated. I mean, even before we even knew what the body parts were, as soon as I said kiss, you said, you gave me the okay.
But I'm Brazilian.
Yeah, but even that is a welcoming. all of it is an opportunity. When I give you a 4 and then I say kiss, I can look at someone's eyes and say like, okay, well, she's not going to be down for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So then I'll immediately say, okay, well, listen, you can answer more and we can get to improvise. Because improvise is the safety space. Improvise means that you have full control and full power of what is going to happen next, even if we're not sure what the body part is, right? Because at the end of the day, even if it's outer thigh, I can just, just a very light touch. But getting to that improvise is really all of it, because then it empowers you to do however you'd like, based off of, again, what's going to make you also comfortable, because that is my goal.
And what is your goal with this dynamic of asking the questions and also allowed to be touched? What was your intention to bring these two pieces together in this game?
Well, I feel like every good plan has a short-term and a long-term benefit. I'm learning that. I'm learning to really appreciate delayed gratification, and anything that's short-term pleasure is great, but as long as there has long-term benefits. And the game, I think it has both. The short-term pleasure is immediately being touched, just makes you feel safe, makes you feel better with that person. And now we have an experience that we can kiki about, we can laugh, we can joke about, we have all this moment together. If nothing else, every time I see you, I'm like, oh, child, me and Viv was on we played the game, child, we do it too much, it was such a good time.
Too much.
But then long-term experience, asking the level 1 question I love to ask everybody, because it immediately garners a smile. Name a scent or smell that brings you happiness. The scent is the strongest of all of our senses. It says smelling. And so just taking a moment, even on your roughest day, the thought of a beautiful scent is enough to center you. And so I even tell people with that question, take that with you throughout your day. And if you see someone struggling and you don't know how to bring them back, and maybe you're not a person to physically embrace someone, you're not a person to always feel empowered to be helpful, then ask that question. Hey, I want to take you out of your space. You look like you're struggling. Let me ask you this question that really brought me peace. And then you ask the question. And now you're playing the game and the person doesn't even know they're playing the game. I think what Touchy Feely does is it empowers you to be proactive when the piece isn't pronounced. It sounds like I just like,
Whoa.
It does, it's my thinking, and I don't know because I'm not a scientist, but when a car crash happens, the reason why the majority of us don't stop and help isn't because we don't want to. It's because we don't think we need to. We think someone else has it, or we don't feel empowered, like, oh, well, we are the one that can help. That's why when someone, chokes, they say, well, is there a doctor in the house? Because we assume only the doctor can help. But if I'm set up with the proper skill set to talk to someone, calm their nervous system with my words, or be able to physically embrace them, then I do feel equipped. And again, of course, my background is helpful to this also, but I feel equipped to talk to anyone at any time about anything, especially if they're not doing well.
Yes.
I'm not a therapist. I don't pretend to be, but I'm a human being who can talk to another human being. And I was giving one of my guy friends a lower back massage because, we old now. And I got lower back problems.
We old.
and I was, pressing his back, and he goes, oh my God, this feels so good. Like, you go to school for this? I said, no, but I know how to treat kindly to another person's body. Little movements. I know the movements my body likes. So now I'm just doing that to you. And we should all be built in with that type of skill set. And I do think the game does that. It's 16 body parts, 80 questions. Infinite opportunity.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. We're going to be playing these games for a little while. Level 1 and level 2 was explained, demonstrated. Yes. Level 2. Again, I have a better understanding how this game works now. I can see that being use this game in any setting. The most important setting will be that meditative solo practice.
Yes. And I've actually had, 2 experiences that I know are for sure. I had a woman maybe about a year and a half ago ask, like, could I play this game by myself? And I had not considered that. And I was like, well, and then I said, oh, I don't think so. And then later on that night, I was laying in bed and I was like, all right, well, let me just pull questions. So I pulled questions to ask to myself. And everyone thinks like, oh, you made the game, so you probably know every question. I don't. The game was created for a lover. It was meant to just be for he and I. Then we broke up. So then I made it into a company.
Wait a minute. Let's rewind that. So he was the reason why you create the intimate card game?
Yeah. And I love to give him full credit because as a feminine woman, there's a lot that I feel I'm owed to myself because femininity always gets leaned on someone else. To be fully feminine, I feel, is to need to be protected by masculine energy. It's to need to be in fear of what could happen to you because you're alone. It's the whole reason why the whole single girl thing is so scary. Is like, oh my God, you can be by yourself. You know, who's protecting you? What this game does is it allows for me to know who I am on my own. But the game was created out of love that only a man could give me.
Beautiful.
So what it is really the ultimate encouragement of love. The man didn't create the game. He hasn't even seen it.
He was the muse.
He was the muse because of the love he gave me, which is why I try to remind my women, listen, we can definitely do it on our own, but we can be greater with love. I could have come up with this game. Could I have come up with this game not in love? No. I really don't think I could have. Did I have the skill set to create the game? Of course. But to bring it all together would have been what happened, which was I went on an amazing date. I felt the immediate chemistry that this man and I had. I felt him encouraging me. We had the most, it was a 17-hour date. It was incredible. We talked, we touched, we played. There was no ego. It was so much beauty. And the next morning he left to go to work. I wasn't working. I think that's also a beautiful thing, is to not work and to have time to rest and be creative. And after he left, I laid, I'll never forget this. It was 7:30 in the morning. I laid on my couch and I thought to myself, oh my God, what am I going to do today? I don't have any work. I don't know what to do. And I was like, you know what? I feel so good. I'm going to create a game that feels like this. I remember saying those words out loud. I'm going to create a game that feels like this. 8 hours later, the game was done. It was 150 questions.
Really?
Which is a test, not a game. And I realized that very quickly. 3 days later, I pared down those questions from 150 to 80. Which felt like a really beautiful number. 8 is an infinity number, and then plus 0. So 8 plus 0 equals infinity plus.
And why the 4 languages?
4 because in my mind, that encapsulated every single relationship. You know, 1 is there's nothing. I don't have a reason to connect to you at all, except that we're going to try. Which I think is why it's also beautiful to play with children, because I don't have biological children. So even with children, it's like, what do you do with a kid that's not yours? Level 1 opens that up to you. It opens up an opportunity. To 4, in my mind, that's the crescendo. You are a witness to my life. I think the most beautiful relationship is ones in which I cannot lie, even if I desire to. I desire to lie to myself sometimes, and I can't do it because I'm stuck with me.
Yes.
And so any external people I can have that with, that is like beyond a blessing. I actually, again, not having biological children, only having ones that I've chosen to have as my own, I feel that is what parents are sharing when they talk about that unique experience that they have with their biological children. It's that idea that, number 1, they have your face, your likeness, maybe your mannerisms, but it's that sort of thinking that you can't hide anything from me. Like, we are one, we are the same, we are.
You can trust me.
You can trust me.
Yeah.
So when I have that with another person, willfully, you have to willfully want to be inside me. I have to willfully want to be inside you. You have to willfully want to call bullshit when I see you lying. Like, that's so much energy.
Yes.
That's such a blessing. Because again, the opposite of love is indifference. Like, oh, you lying to me, child, but don't I care? And I get that too. I get a lot of people who lie to me for different reasons, mostly to hide from themselves. And then I have to decide, like, oh, this isn't, I don't care. That's fine. You can just lie. I don't care.
So what did you learn about yourself after you gave birth to this beautiful experience? Touchy Feely?
Well, first, that I can quite literally do anything I put my mind to. And I don't say that boastfully. I say it humbly, and I say it with full carefulness now. Cat Williams said in an interview one time that he's so sure that, do you know the comedian Cat Williams?
Yeah.
He said he's so sure of his power and his blessings that he actually doesn't even look at women that aren't his, because he does not want to entice anything that's not supposed to be for him. And then, that sounds kind of like boastful, like, oh, you don't even look at women because, they might all want me. But I understood what he was saying. It's when, for me, the power of the tongue. If I look at something and I say just really quickly, like, oh, I want it, God is going to start moving my energy toward that thing. I said I wanted a gift for my lover, and now we're in a multi-million-dollar company, So It's about being very, very clear about what it is you want, the short-term and long-term benefits and pleasure. And then remembering that anything I say out loud I want, God is listening. So then he's looking for me to start walking in that direction. And so for me, I've started doing less jobs. I do what I need to do to promote the game, but I was sharing with you like, oh, I kind of want a podcast. But I'm like, no, if I say I want a podcast, then I'm going to get a podcast job. I don't want more jobs, So that was really the biggest thing, is to be able to set my mind to something, do it so easily, and then break history.
And so well.
I appreciate that. And I have to say, creating the game was, from start to finish, the creative process was so simple, so easy, and so perfect. It's the sales part where, it's just a different beast, because now I'm playing the game of you have to win.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be as fair in sales, because there's another game out there that of course wants to sell more. And it's not about who's going to offer you the better experience. It's about who's going to pay the most money to get their game in front of your face. And I think that's the part that's like,
yucky. And I think that's what it comes with. I like to call it comes with the package, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I felt called to have you in my show, because outside of this, we have amazing conversations, and with the card game, for me, it was like, oh my gosh, I can spend time talking to Candace all day, every day, because it's just so nutritious, our conversations, where I'm asking questions afterwards, like, oh shoot, I never thought that way. Let me check that out. Or I share the same things with you. And I feel like, not only because of the cards, I feel even closer to you, because the intention behind creating the cards allow me to be unapologetically correct. You coming to do this podcast episode, and we're gonna do more episodes, because we need to have these conversations in the airways.
Yes.
Because I know, as a woman, and because that's who I serve with my skincare business, we are in need to get to know ourselves.
Yeah.
And as we have, used this tool to have these conversations, we are also bringing that healing touch to the experience, meaning these conversations are very therapeutic, not for both of us, but for whoever is listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, to really question ourselves, like, hey, did I ever ask these questions to myself? And how would I respond if someone asked those questions? Right? And that's why I know for a fact, because I am one of them. Yes, for singles. Yes, for therapeutic work, meditative work. The card game is excellent for that, different levels. You can play level 4 and touch yourself. That would not be a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Oh, yeah. We have a webcam, because, it's as sexual or it's as not as you'd like it to be.
Yeah.
I had a webcam girl purchase a game.
Ooh.
And the way she uses it is she's on cam by herself, but her audience tips her. If you tip her $20, then she'll answer level 1. We tip her 40, she'll answer level 2, 60 for level 3, and then 80 for level 4. She answers the question, and then you have to tip her again to have her touch herself in whatever the...
OnlyFans?
I actually don't know what her account... She just said she's an on-cam girl, but she's making a ton of money, but the play is monetary.
Wow.
So people are paying to hear her answers and then paying to see how she follows up with a touch to herself. And I thought, oh my God, even that. So even in what do you call it? Voyeurism.
Yeah.
Which is a love language. There are some people who do not want to be touched. They don't want to be talked to. They don't want to be acknowledged. They just want to watch. So I even said to her, I was like, well, even that is a therapy tool. So she's producing this love that people just can see. And yes, it's her own self-pleasure that she's monetizing, but I mean, well, good for you, girl, you know?
Listen, $80?
Yes. And then in our group experiences, you know, when we do the game nights, it's so lovely to have the married couples there along with the single people, because the married people can tell us what we need to know for long-term goals. And the short term, you know, the single people can remind the married couples of, like, you know, how to keep it popping and juicy.
Yes, I love it.
Because that's necessary.
Popping and juicy.
Popping and juicy.
So for today's episode, we're going to stop here. Level 1 and level 2. If y'all have questions, feel free to leave it on the area comment below, or you can DM us. So for this purpose of this episode, where can they find you, Candace, and the Touchy Feely brand?
Well, Touchy Feely Game is very easy to Google or search, but it's also Touchy Feely Game on all of our social media platforms, and then touchyfeelygame.com for our website. We do events.
Yes, talk about that.
We have we wanted to create a date-like experience. Romantic play for quite literally anyone. If you're single, come out and meet people. If you're on a date, then we're giving you a date experience where you're not just shoving food in your mouth, you're actually getting something fruitful. And if you are in a partnership of some kind and you're just wanting to feel a romantic energy, then we have that for you. I also feel like, and honestly, you would be better equipped to answer this. I also feel like we live in a time where our society doesn't push romantic partners to stay together. We push people to get together, but not to stay together. There's a lot of money in divorcing and splitting up and having 2 households and now, you know, 2 jobs and all that kind of stuff. But we like to create an experience where if an exhausted couple comes in, we can remind you of why you want to stay in your relationship. And we've had that. We've had wives come in and want to complain to death about, I'll never forget this. We had one wife complain. Her husband dropped her off, didn't stay, but he dropped her off. And then she complained about how terrible he was. I was like, well, where is he? And she's like, oh, you know, he had to work tonight. I was like, but he dropped you off tonight and then went to work? And she goes, yeah. I said, well, that seems nice. She's like, yeah, but you know, that's the least he can do. I probably go home and there'll be dishes in my sink. And I said,
oh my God.
Oh, like how many dishes? Like, oh, you know, like probably a plate, just whatever he ate from dinner. I had to remind, if you lose your entire relationship because you complained about a couple dishes, girl, you'll have more dishes in your sink when you're depressed because you lost your relationship. Like, just keeping in mind, but that is also what spoiled people do, is you complain about small things. So it's important for the rest of us to remind you of how lucky you are.
And that's what I've been noticing now that I've been married for a hot second, but we've been together for 4 years. When I do go out, I'm like, I'm so glad that I'm going home to someone.
Yeah.
Right. But I also like the idea of the events, bringing people together, because then you have examples of, okay, love does exist, or love exists, period. That's the truth, is a law. But as they are sharing how they met and how they keep going, using the cards or going to therapy or even creating like date nights on the calendar to make sure we maintain this, the romance of a relationship, then we inspire others to do the same. So I do love the idea that you provide experiences in group setting as well. So if anyone are interested, they are interested in host an event, did they get in touch with you? How is that process?
Oh, yeah. On our website, touchyfeelygame.com, there's a a contact page. So you're welcome to send me an email. We love partnering with anyone, right? So we do everything from hotels, restaurants, obviously any place with a game atmosphere. I mean, I really would like to get into just doing more more park events. I love the idea of a picnic. I just think a picnic is the most romantic and simple date. You go get the food you want to eat. I'm gonna get what I want to eat. We'll share everything, right? And we'll lay out in a blanket. And have a conversation. I
love it.
And on my right, because not every date can be a 10, but most of my dates are picnic dates. I find that if the date is going really poorly on the picnic blanket, and I just am with someone who, even when playing the game, I'm just not getting it, we're not connected, and that it works like that, then you lay up and you look at the clouds. And then you talk about the shape of the clouds. And that brings you back together.
I love it.
So I love even the idea of doing that. But yes, I'm interested in partnering with anyone, including you. Like we could...
Yeah, we're definitely creating something.
Yes.
This is just the start, guys.
Yes.
And girls, okay? So anyway, thank you so much for coming today. And we are definitely exploring level 3 and 4. We're going to ask the questions and we're going to explain, different ways that you can interpret it. Because independently you're gonna come from different angles, but having the founder here is easier for us to understand the real intention about that particular question. So I'm super excited for you.
Thank you so much.
Coming back here
I'm
and
so
teach
excited.
us about connection.
Yes, for level 4.
Yes. So guys, thank you so much for your time and stay tuned for part 2. Ciao.